Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a very special episode of the Catholic Talk Show. This is our 200th episode.
That's right. We're doing a 200th. We're looking back at the nearly almost 4 years that we've been doing this, looking back at some of our best memories and sharing some of the inside stories of what's, this whole journey has been like.
This show's going to be a blast, and we're happy you're a part of it.
Yeah, 200 episodes. Cue the siren.
I'm trying.
Oh, gosh.
Wow,
Glitter bombs.
Dude, we're 200 episodes in and we still can't even get a siren to go off. Thank you. We are slackers.
What a mess.
This has been awesome.
Close to 4 years, guys.
Yeah.
This is time has flown by, and when you mentioned to me that we're coming up on our 200th episode, I mean, my mind's blown, but we've had some incredible experiences along the way.
Yeah, a lot of success, a lot of challenges, and we've met a lot of great people who have helped us along the way.
That's right.
Today we're gonna share just kind of what that journey's been like, because it's really been it's been a lot of fun, and you guys are all part of it. So we wanted to share this with you.
Yeah. This is the most requested question that we get in our comm boxes and through the people that we meet is, how did you guys meet? And we talk about some of that in patches here and there, but I think this is a good episode to talk through it a little bit and give everybody the back end scoop of all this stuff.
I think it's number one. It's bizarre to me that people would even be interested in us, let alone how we met. But I think that you've been with us for 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. You've been along this this trip with us. So,
and this is like a really take a moment and just give a shout out to our patrons and our community, people who have been subscribed on our platforms. Mm-hmm. You're the ones who make this show. And you have really forged such an incredible opportunity for us to be able to get together and spread this the beautiful content of our faith online in this effort of new evangelization.
So why don't you guys talk about how you two met, and then we'll talk about how you and I met afterwards. Yeah.
So we met. I was discerning the priesthood. Father Tetlow, who we just mentioned, who hopefully we'll have on a show at some point. Mm-hmm. He had an event at the diocese, and Father Pagano at that point was not in the seminary at the time, had a girlfriend, and he asked him to come speak, and he was talking, and I was just so excited at that time.
What was his girlfriend like?
I never met her.
I don't think you ever met her.
No? Yeah, I think he was lying about it.
It was his girlfriend at camp.
Trying to get some street cred. Like, I got this girl. I don't know about this whole priesthood.
No, I don't know if Jesus called me. I got more numbers in the phone book.
He gave a really good talk, and I was,
you were actually in the seminary.
I was not in the seminary. I was discerning it, and then obviously met him, then went out and spent time with him and Father Tetlow. And
we hung out quite a bit at Santa Maria del Mar back in the day. Yeah. And you came up after the talk, and you were just filled with light and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And you were just like, yeah, bro, it's all about the Eucharist, man. I'm like, I like this guy.
It is all about the Eucharist. And later I found out Pope John Paul said it's the source and summit. I was like, yeah, man. That's right, man.
Oh, man. So what year would this have been around?
So it was 2004, and I was a youth director at Santa Maria with Father Tetlow. And then, like Delacroix was saying, we were hanging out all the time at that point, and hitting up the YMCA, playing basketball, playing softball against the Knights of Columbus. Yeah. And it was just a great period of time in both of our lives. And then Delacroix joined and went down to St. John Vianney, because he affiliated. And then for me, I was discerning the call, and I didn't know if I was going to be like a religious, a diocesan priest. So I went to Ave Maria. So we were kind of simultaneously, across the state in South Florida. And I still remember you sending over Kevin McEwen and Mike Nixon to come visit me at Ave. That first year. Yeah, a
lot of people think we were in the seminary together at the same seminary. We were not. But I met so many wonderful guys that became priests, so many wonderful guys that continued on as lay members of the church. And what a great time in my life of just, having this great experience of God's love for me and in and through all the sin that I committed and just building me up in his spirit and, just projecting myself into how can I help other people, realize this because it was a great gift that somebody, introduced me to Christ.
Yeah. And then that connection continued between Ryan and I. I joined the diocese in 2006, and then Delacroix discerned out or got the boot.
He got the bootski.
He's got the bootskis. And then you got married, moved up to D.C. We still stayed in touch. So I used to go up to the March for Life, and we'd go to your parish. You'd have the CFRs coming in. And we maintained our friendship from then on. And then fast forward, when I was being sent by Bishop as a newly ordained priest, 3 years, I did my first assignment, completed it. He sent me for further studies in communications. I went out to John Paul the Great in San Diego, and as I was driving out there, we were posting things left and right.
I remember this. So I remember when that happened. So Delacroix called me up. He's like, dude, I reconnected with my boy from the seminary. He stayed at his house. He's like, we stayed up till like 4 a.m. and we were like talking like Italian New Yorkers, and we were just like so much alike, bro. It was so good to see this dude. But here's the thing. Delacroix is like that with everyone he meets, right? He is like a puppy, man. Like, he sees you, you're like, holy crap, this is the greatest person I've ever met. So I've heard that story a lot of times. But when he was telling it about you, I
see
remember,
the best in people.
Yeah, he does. But I remember him calling me and saying, oh, and we stayed up till 4 a.m. We were just joking. We're like, hey,
Well, we knew too. Also, I think we knew that we connected at a time where we could take time with each other and do something for God. And I remember that being something that we
at the train
on.
Station in San Diego.
Yeah.
The fact that I showed up, you were meeting with the president.
Rich was waving his hanky out the window of the train, and Ryan's just sitting there like Humphrey Bogart.
But the fact that you were meeting with the president to give some counsel to their strategies, and I'm starting school there, and we literally met my first day in San Diego, and I didn't realize, because you were doing youth ministry for a while, so I didn't know your thing kicked off. I knew you did the website for Steubenville University, and you did some other projects, some apps and stuff, but I didn't realize that you had built this whole movement with Sheila. I never got that part of the story.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was going to be studying that, it was definitely clear, like, God united that at that moment in San Diego.
And just like all things God does, especially with people like us, is it's never the first thing you think about, right? Because we thought we were going to do all this stuff. And then, fast forward, we're at Napa, and I met a friend who was in Hollywood, and he knew this big guy that was doing podcasting in the penthouse of this beautiful
shout out Cast Media. They did a lot to help us out.
They sure did. And we're sitting there, and we're having a wine, and we're looking out over the balcony, and we got 5 or 6 guys in there just hanging out. And I was like, we need to do a podcast. And then you just like kind of looked out over the balcony, and then you turn back around. I'll never forget it. You go, I'll do it if we can get Pagano. And I was like, yes, yes.
So here's how that happened, right? And that's.
Well, let's give the backstory on you guys.
Well, we'll get to that, but let's finish that thread. Is that you came to me, right? And Ryan comes to me a lot of times. Like, we're kind of the yin and the yang over at Fusati, right? It's we bounce stuff off of each other. So he's like, hey man, this Pagano guy, he's really dynamic. He's in new media. I think we might be able to do something cool with him.
Yeah.
So what do I always say when you come to me with an idea?
No.
Let's test it.
Yeah, I usually say no, and then you'll say, let's test it after a couple weeks.
Yeah, let's test it. So we did this thing. We're like, okay, well, let's try this. Let's try to do a live stream video. Let's take this priest, and he's down in San Diego, and let's see him do a little tour of one of the mission grounds in San Diego. Now, that was the first thing we ever all three did together.
That's right.
Was a live stream video on the U Catholic Facebook page.
Mission San Diego de Alcalá in San Diego.
That's right. That was the first thing we ever did. And I'm like, it was really, really good. And then the first thought that we had after that was like, okay, I'm satisfied. This guy's pretty good. He knows what he's doing. He presents well. So then we started talking about more ideas, and then we were like, well, why don't we maybe kind of make him like a, pardon the term, like a Schmitz, and like let's just make like little 3-minute videos with him and share them out, like how he kind of did with Ascension Presents. And then we never got around to it for some reason, and time went on. Then we were out there at Napa, and we were having wine and Hennessy.
Yeah, lots of Hennessy.
A lot of Hennessy.
That was really good.
Yeah, it was great. And we were chasing the rabbit, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the idea of a podcast was brought up. And I'm like, well, us two would be a good show, but we need a chaplain. We need some blessing. We need someone who's actually a priest who can really speak authoritatively on some of these things.
Absolutely.
And then I'm like, well, the only guy that I would want to do it with is this Pagano guy because he's our age. He kind of talks, moves, and acts like us. And I dare say I was right. I think I made a good call.
Thanks,
we
Ryan.
all know how Ryan Shield has to be always
Ryan.
right.
I don't have to be. I just happen
It just
to be.
happens to be.
It just happens to be.
happen to be always right. The experience I remember too.
Well, because I just knew it wouldn't work just the two of us. I know we needed a third personality to make it right. We needed, we have the mind and the heart. We needed the soul,
Well, I'm glad that we all were able to come together. You guys came together though. You started with Howard, this bearded man over here in DC, to get that company off the ground.
Yeah.
And then from there, how did you meet Shield?
So
This is just like a marriage story, right? His story is different than my story. Whenever my wife tells the story of how we met, I'm like, that's horrible, honey.
I think our stories line up pretty close. But it was Brian, you were doing some things for the USCCB. They were doing the pro-life the
9-day novena.
9 days for life novena.
Yeah.
And you were helping
They're still doing that.
Yeah, they still are. And we still help them with that, Fusati. And you were promoting that, and I was doing You Catholic and running a bunch of Catholic social media and kind of creating that community. And you called me up and like, hey, dude, would you like to? Could you help me out on this? I'm like, sure, man, happy to. It's for the bishops. I was like, wow, get to work with the bishops. I'm not just some youngster. And I'm like, cool. And then Delacroix is like, well, how much you want to get paid for this? Because, he had a budget to promote it, and he was looking for an audience. I'm like, I don't need any money for this. It's cool, dude. I'll just do it for free. He's like, well, where do you want me to send this check for $2,500? I'm like, well, I'll take that, right? Yeah. $2,500 at the time was a lot.
Well, you were doing them for free all the time. And so, if I was going to send you money, you probably weren't thinking it was much.
Yeah. I mean, like $50. Yeah, just keep it, dude. I don't do that. But $2,500, I'm like, well, there's this, this Les Paul I've been eyeing. I'm like, okay, well, I could fund that purchase of this guitar. I'm like, all right, I'll do this, So then this was 2008?
Yeah.
2007 or 8, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was 2008 or early 2009.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So, yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. Dude, take this check and I'll go buy Les Paul. I named the guitar the Bishop. I still have it. And from there, then we started working on other projects. And then, I went out to his house somewhere around 2010, and we talked about working together, and we kind of discerned that it wasn't the right time to really,
get it off the ground,
formally, merge. Yeah. But then we did some things where we raised money for people who are being persecuted by ISIS in Syria and Iraq. We raised a good amount of money for that. Then we started working together more and more, and eventually we're like, let's just merge forces here and go after it. And that's kind of, does that jive with what you remember?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just kind of funny how when God calls you to do something, you don't know what's going to happen. And God called me to literally like bring him through new media to people in the seminary. And then I, started Discerning Marriage with Jen, and then Jen got stationed at DC after we got married, and sort of reconnected with that calling to start Fusati, which was already a secular marketing company. I'm like, oh yeah, God wanted me to do this. Got some clients, ended up meeting him. And
I remember meeting you at Howard. The first time I met you, I met Howard the same day too, and went over and had wings at that bar. We walked over from your house.
Yeah, yeah. And then from there, I think it got to the point where he was ready. Yeah. And we were ready, and he saw that, and then came down to Houston. And
what do I always say? Let's test it out first. We test the relationship.
Yeah.
That's kind of
so
what
that's
I do.
how that started, and we've been partners ever since. And I think the dynamic that we have here is a lot of what I deal with on a day-to-day basis with Ryan and everybody at Fusati, which is serving our Lord as best you can, and having a joyful heart and being a cheerful giver.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever really mentioned Fusati in the context of the Catholic Talk Show.
Yeah.
So what Ryan and I were partners in a marketing agency and a technology firm called Fusati. And what we do is we handle marketing and technological needs for a lot of organizations in the church, from the USCCB,
the Vatican,
for multiple archdioceses and dioceses, religious orders, Catholic apostolates. We worked with just about anyone you could think of in the church, and it's really been a blessing. And a lot of what we've been able to do with the Catholic Talk Show comes from the know-how from what we do at Fusati. I mean, we built Father Rich's website, which is mighty fine website, if I
think
must
it's
say.
one of the best websites out there. Check it out, NocketyCatholic.com.
Boom.
There you go.
Look at the little bottom. It says built by Fusati in the bottom. We leave out that old Kilroy was here, right? Now, the first time we ever talked about doing a podcast, we went up to Relevant Radio in Chicago, and it was like -10, and you and him had just gotten back from
Our Lady of Guadalupe when we consecrated.
And you were still wigged out on your pain medicine.
Yeah.
So
and rolling around in a wheelchair.
Bad.
So it's like -10 degrees, and me and Delacroix go up to Chicago, and we're talking to the people at Relevant Radio.
I remember I was supposed to go on that trip because you invited me to come on that trip, and I couldn't. I had to come back for something here in the diocese.
So he was on this. His knee was in terrible pain, and
he just had surgery.
Cold weather.
Oh
yeah.
So we go to a bar and we have like 2 beers, but he had taken his pain medicine.
Yeah.
And like 2 beers in, he was like, whoa. he was wigged out. And I called up his wife. I'm like, hey, Jen, I just want to let you know Ryan's cool, but I think he mixed his pain medicine with the beer, and it's,
I woke up next to a piece of pizza.
We went to, what's the deep dish pizza place?
Giordani's.
Yeah, we went to Giordano's. I'm like, I need to get this kid some food, right? Dilute the stuff in his stomach. But we had talked about it that night, which is weird because it was right after your trip to Our Lady of Guadalupe, who's our patroness. So I think some things were lining up there. I think you guys had been talking, and then we were talking about.
Well, it was crazy because like all of it just was converging because we spent an entire summer whiteboarding different ideas, concepts.
Yeah.
You went up to Napa. You guys started talking about the podcast. We went to Our Lady of Guadalupe and consecrated our relationship and what we're trying to do in new media and new evangelization. And then all this is coming together. Chicago, -10 degrees, Relevant Radio. And
waking
all
up
these
next to pizza.
Yeah, all of these visits. I became a chaplain to Fusati and celebrating the solemnity of Saint Joseph and cracking up when Delacroix was reading being a lector.
Yeah, I forgot that you were chaplaining for Fusati.
And so like all of this kind of started converging together in a beautiful way, and really to have the affirmation of Bishop Estevez that he was behind it. He just allowed me to kind of, go do this, and he allowed me the freedom to be able to express this and trust that God was really bringing together all these relationships. And that's what gave me peace is that, one, I'm a very loyal person. So the fact that we've had a relationship from the beginning in the seminary, that opened me up. But then as I started to see how all of these relationships with you, that one retreat that we did down at Jeff's place, and that was incredible.
We weren't doing the show yet together.
No,
that was the first time I met you.
He was the chaplain.
So the first time I met you, we were in.
We had that miserable fishing day, and you were like not having it all day.
Well, I was the only one who caught a fish. I won the fishing competition. What's that?
I caught a flounder.
You caught a flounder?
Hey, don't talk about Howard the fisherman.
There's Ryan just directing all the attention to himself, missing out on Howard's flounder.
He brought a flounder with him as frozen as Gorton's. I don't think we were in the same boat because we had 2 boats. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah.
So
But yeah,
good job catching flounder, Howard.
And then that's when we had the jousting in the pool.
That's right.
That's when you got stuck upside down on the fence when we tried to go cow tipping from Bucks West.
I deserve that.
That was funny.
That was really fun.
And then Thad was playing Justin Bieber.
Yeah. We got kicked out of a bar because Thad played Justin Bieber over and over and over again.
Well, no, you can't just blame it on Thad. Like, he and Thad, like, they thought it was the funniest thing, but they played the same song of Justin Bieber over and over and over again.
And this is like a real grizzled, this is like oil man coming in off the rigs. And they just want to come in there and they just want to have a cold beer and a hot hamburger. And then we're just a bunch of, dummies playing.
Upstairs running around, playing pool, giggling like little girls.
And then you two went out kayaking. This was like a historically cold weekend.
With that, too.
It was so cold.
Yeah, and you guys, Thad, he works with Fusati. He's our vice president of technology. Good dude. If you're going on the Estovir, you'll meet Thad. Yeah. He's a good buddy of ours. But you guys are out kayaking, and then they had a hot tub or a pool. And you guys brought the kayaks into the pool, and you guys are jousting.
And it was cold.
Yeah, well, that's the idea of the joust. You fall on you fall off your kayak. You're freezing.
It's cold. Yeah, it's really cold.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I remember we picked you up, and we were talking, and you're like, "So what's up with you, dude? You got like a photographic memory or something?" And I'm like, "Nah, I just remember shit, And now I'm like, I totally remember that moment. I completely could have a photographic memory of that moment. You've asked me if I had a photographic memory. We were like going along the pier there, where like there's like they had like the carousel and stuff like that.
So like as you can see, like we were everything was like converging, and then when this all came together, we started out in LA, and it was the relationship that you guys had with Cast Media that really put us in the door, really. And we learned a lot from them.
We learned a lot from them.
We learned a ton.
And I still remember, learning all the equipment and the hookups and the mics. We have the same exact mics that we started with. So, it was just a powerful experience being in the tallest building in historic Hollywood. Yeah. Overlooking downtown LA and just the
ocean.
The ocean.
Yeah,
it was
really
a
cool.
beautiful spot. And there were some funny things that happened out there.
Well, we were younger men then, and I think like I mentioned this to you guys the other day. We've aged a ton in 4 years, dude. We look a lot older. We were all much darker haired and not quite as wrinkly.
I just can't afford Just for Men anymore. That's all.
Let's get a little shoe polish on there, baby. You look all right. But yeah, we had a lot of fun when we were in LA, and we were kind of just learning the ropes.
But we were killing it, dude. We were like doing 16 shows in
2 days.
In a 2 day, in a 2 to 3 day period of time, and then we would finish a shoot and then go out and network with all these people
and stay up till 4 in the morning,
and then be up the next morning shooting shows all day long. It was nuts.
We would get pretty irritated with each other.
Yes.
So I'd be like, more episodes.
Yeah. Let's tell the funny story of the Musso and Frank night. When you told me, well, there's a lot that went on there. It's a very historic steakhouse in Hollywood.
It's the oldest steakhouse in Hollywood.
It is.
Oldest grill.
Yeah, oldest grill.
Whenever we're done recording with the session, we always go out to a nice dinner at the end.
Yeah.
And Musso and Frank, it was like if you ever seen the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's like where
it's in that,
Leonardo DiCaprio and Pacino were talking. That's like that steakhouse. And we were at like almost that exact table from that film.
Yeah, and they were pointing out where everybody sat. Now, one of my fondest memories of that dinner was when you guys were, because I guess everybody's got to be somebody there. So I think somebody asked us, it was like a neighboring table, like, who are you guys?
Yeah, because we were loud.
Laughing.
We were laughing. We were having a blast.
Yeah, no more episodes.
I was telling the waiter, I'm like, go back there, tell the chef to kick my ass with this sauce. I want
you think it's hot. I want it so hot that you're like, I should not serve this. And then you know what? Make it hotter.
And he goes back.
Make it spicier.
The chef comes out and meets us too. Yeah. I mean, that was a funny.
So this table of people next to us are like, wow, these must be like, they're like, are you guys movie stars? And Delacroix goes to this lady. He's like, no, I'm a baseball player. They're like, oh yeah, who are you? He's like, I'm Mike Piazza. I used to play catcher for the Dodgers. And they're like, really? He's like, yeah.
I had so much fun with that.
That was a great night.
And then you rode that out the whole way.
Oh, it was great.
No, well, it was funny. I remember we got locked in. We tried to go out the front door. We closed that place down.
We did.
And we're trying to go out the front door. And the door's locked. I'm like, wow, what the hell? I can't get out. And this other guy comes up and he starts trying to get out the door. I look over. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, dude, it's locked. And it was the bass player from REM. So I'm like, I don't know, dude. I think we got to go out the back door. So we all go out the back door, and then this dude cruises off in a Prius. I'm like, that's pretty okay.
Losing my religion.
Oh man, that was a good night.
Was that the night that you tore up the number?
No,
that was
night.
a different night.
Okay.
So we were on. Boy, I can't remember the name of that place.
That was a really cool spot.
It was really a rooftop bar.
It was a beautiful rooftop bar.
That was nice.
You could see the Hollywood sign. The sun was setting. I slipped away and I was praying and just reflecting on just the experience. And then this,
So look, I don't think anyone watching this, I don't think it's a secret that you know that Father Ricky here is a good-looking dude.
Good-looking dude.
He's a good-looking dude. He's Father Whataways.
Yeah.
Right? So we were leaving this bar, and we were going to go over to
Machetes.
We were going to go over to
eat some tacos.
Eat taco and machetes. And this girl comes up to me. She's like, "Give my number to your friend." And I'm like, the dude's a Catholic priest. She's like, I don't even care. That makes it even better. So she gives me this number, and I'm like, and so we walk outside, and we're kind of waiting for a cab or something.
I think we were actually in Machete when you told me.
No, we were walking.
Were we?
Yeah, and so I'm like, hey, Father Rich, I'm like, that chick, remember the one, the hostess? She wanted me to give you her number. And so I hold it up, and I go to give it to Father Rich, and I'm like, rip. I ripped off the last two numbers.
In front of my
I'm like, if you're in and I ripped off the last two numbers and gave you the rest of it. I'm like, if you're in such a bend to break your vows and you want to go through 100 numbers, you can. But I'm giving you at least a head start on your discernment.
Yeah.
That was funny.
That was a funny night.
That was good.
Then we went to Machetes, ate more spicy food, and then you guys went back home. I remember we walked past the Fender building where they make Fender guitars. Then we went back to the place, and then you two cried watching a documentary all night.
Allen Iverson, man. It was the Allen Iverson documentary. I'm glad that you pointed out that because he always busts my chops that I cry all the time. He was crying during that.
You guys were both crying.
Another trip to Hollywood, and we'll stop there and move on. All right, so last story about
LA, right?
LA, Hollywood, whatever. Yeah, so we're out walking the street, and we're getting some beer.
No. First, we had a meeting with the Grand Knights Council of California for the Knights of Columbus.
That's right.
So we went out to a Mexican restaurant with the Knights of Columbus.
That's right.
And then after that dinner, it was a nice dinner, great guys.
Yeah.
Then we're like,
that was a great time.
Yeah. Then we're like,
shout out Knights of Columbus.
Now let's go get some booze.
Yeah, we're gonna go eat some booze. We're gonna go back and just relax.
Yep, chill out of the house. This was kind of toward I think one of our last sessions,
one of our last trips.
So we were getting wiser as time went on because our first time, I mean, we were burning it like left and right.
I know.
And then we were kind of getting a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're getting older, and you're starting to realize just how much of a toll it takes on you
to
record and stuff like that. Which I feel like we'll address this later, but I feel like we're getting way better at it, and it's a lot less friction, mental friction with all that. But yeah, so you go in there, and I'm outside, and this guy's got a mobility scooter, and he's trying to sell it to me. And
I'm just inside
with you.
I'm just inside. We're picking up some stuff, and we come outside of the store.
You come out, you go, what are you doing?
He's doing donuts in a Pride Jazzy in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard.
Well, I told the guy
he's on the Sunset Strip doing donuts in a mobility scooter.
I told the guy, I was like, before you sell this to somebody, you should let him test drive it. So I get on that thing and I'm asking him questions. I'm like, what kind of warranty do you have? Like, and he's trying to explain this. I think he stole it. He's just trying to like get rid of it. But I'll never forget. You come out and you're like, you got both of your hands out. You're like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm test driving a scooter. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. There was a lot more to that night, Ted.
There were so many occasions though in LA that were just amazing. The relationships, the conversations,
ministry, just talking to people about our faith.
It was. We really hit the streets, and it wasn't just the show.
Right.
We were talking to a ton of people about the Catholic faith, and we were networking with the Catholic ministries out there, and people that are on the ground in Hollywood every day.
Yeah. We got to get back out there. One of the things that, when we'll get into our stats later, but, being that we've done pretty well with YouTube, one of the things that's open to us now is to be able to use a YouTube recording studio. So we got to get out to LA and record out there and do that.
I think that would be good.
That'd be good.
Yeah, and I think we started in LA, and then your priestly ministry began to take shape, right? Because you were in school, so you had a little bit of freedom, a lot of freedom actually, to make trips up to LA or to whatever. And then we moved the studio. We built our own studio in
And I
Houston.
had moved back to Jacksonville, so I was in Arlington.
Right.
So to be able to hop in a plane and do a nonstop to Houston, knock out a few shows in 2.5 days and come back.
And you weren't a pastor at that point.
Yes,
And then
and I
once
was
you
with
became
Father
a pastor, it was like, okay, well, you're way more connected to this parish from a standpoint
One
of
of my favorite story in Houston, though, is when we locked ourselves in our studio. and Howard had to use a hammer and break the door down.
You remember that, Howard?
I think we were locked in there for like 45 minutes.
That was a trip.
We actually posted about
could
that.
not get. Yeah, we went live.
Yeah.
We're locked in the studio, and you just see Howard trying to freak us out.
I think LA, we
That's a
learned.
great story. I haven't thought about that.
In
a long
LA, we
time.
learned a lot, but we had kind of training wheels. Cast Media really helped guide us and take care of a lot. And then when we got to Houston, I think we had a lot of growing pains. We had to figure out how to make the set look good. We had to build our own set. We had to figure out how to kind of manage ourselves, right? And we fought a lot in Houston. We would get in a lot of fights and trying to pace how many shows we were gonna do. It was a little bit more of a difficult situation there because we didn't know we were on our own. We didn't have like a director anymore,
Yeah. Yeah. And it just kind of, over time we began understanding how, our personality, the way God made us, it contributes to a group of two other guys where.
And how much you could talk in a day without hating yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. And, those developments, I mean, that's what a lot of people think, it's like we edit some of this stuff. And a lot of times we're like, no, I just, I don't know, and then you're like, I'm tired. And, usually it's me or you who's tired,
And when I start shutting down, it's like,
me too.
Well, because
Same way.
you're all, like I said, man, you are 100% or you're not into it. And when you start not getting into it, you can just tell. So we just have to, cut the cord. And me, I'm just like, yeah, let's do this, baby.
Ezekiel, my grandfather, is big hands.
He built this podcast with his
Bare
bare
hands.
So we were in Houston for a while, and then some of my
It was great. We would stay at Dela Cross's house.
some of my favorite memories were hanging out with the family and
Kids
having
pulling
a
my
lot
beard.
Yeah. They're all growing up.
and then COVID hit.
Well, you
and then we had
baptized
to-
my baby, so one of my babies.
Well, no, that was great. So we were all recording
is a
in
great
Houston.
story.
We were doing a session, and then Ryan's like, "Oh, we
got the baptism."
We got the baptism." So we all get in the car. We're like, he calls Jen. We'll meet you at the church. We all get in the car. We got
and
done recording.
It's literally the three of us,
just three of us in the
and
truck.
Maria.
Yeah,
So Maria was with us.
the baby.
Yeah,
Was she?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
No,
Maria was
I
with
don't
us.
think she was with us.
It was just
It
the
was
three
just
of
the
us. Yeah, because we stopped and bought hot sauce. I remember this.
Yeah.
So then we're going there, and we get to the church, and Ryan's like,
Nobody's here.
"No one's here, huh?" And we looked at the time. We're like, it sort of started 5 minutes ago. We're late. And Jen calls, "You are at the wrong church, Ryan Anthony Delacrosse." So we went to the wrong church, had to tear across town to the other church.
Yeah, man, that was funny.
That was good.
That was.
Lot of fun, a lot of cigars and stuff on the grill in Delacrosse's backyard down in Houston.
I would say too, like, one of the cool things is as we develop, our community began developing, and we started meeting some of these people in person, and they've a lot of them have become friends,
Absolutely.
And we had a number of guests in LA on, but I thought the guests that we had in Houston were really outstanding. And we really started to get to know who we were, our relationship with the guests, and we had some repeat guests, and we had some really interesting conversations there in Houston. And then ultimately COVID hits. We need to figure out what we can do. I'm now a pastor too, so that's why we moved it here. And this is just, this stretch of time has been a blessing. And we've really kind of hit a groove in how we approach the production of this.
Well, look, I mean, we're basically sleeping in the studio, and I think we've really learned to know ourselves. Like, okay, we need a break, or we need a nap, we need coffee. Let's go get lunch. you know, and just having it all kind of self-contained is really a blessing. It's made it possible to where we're getting as much done as we ever have without the stress.
That's right. Yeah,
it's really good.
And then if something
process.
urgent comes up, I could split and we could rearrange our schedules, and it works out so well. And something that I've loved recently is just, you know, we've done 3 Q&As and live shows.
That's fun.
And they're a blast, man. And you just really start feeling connected to the community.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when we left LA, we were kind of on our own. We no longer had the ability to draft, you know, to crash on Cast Media's couch, right? They were providing everything for us, right? And then, you know, we had to leave the nest, and we had to we had to invest and put the money in and get all this stuff, and we could not have done it without our patrons. I mean, our patrons
and the
really
prayers of everybody.
If we didn't have, that's a good point. If we didn't have our patrons that give on our Patreon,
we would have been done after we left LA.
That's a great point.
We would have been done after 30 episodes.
Yeah, that's really a great point.
Certainly wouldn't have hit 200, let alone 100.
A
I
big
remember
shout
when
out
we built
to you
the
guys.
studio, we barely had enough money left. And I'm like, we can't really buy that wood. Let's wait till next month when the patron money comes in.
Yeah, we got this at this table we got at the
flea market.
Flea market, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember in Houston though? It was like an extension of the Fusati offices, but it's like on the other side there was like this maintenance guy that was in there, and he was always like working on something. He was starting up chainsaws.
Yeah, we had a boat in there, and we were like, dude, stop hammering. We're recording.
Yeah, that guy's like Sanford and Sons, man. He just collects a bunch of stuff and sells it online.
Dude, it was hot in that studio.
It was just concrete block. I mean, it was just all concrete. It was
with a
just
steel roof, and it was hot as.
Yeah.
That was
This is a much nicer situation.
I like it. Yeah, we're gonna be here for a while. But yeah, like speaking towards our community and like the partners, big shout out to HALLOW and Exodus 90.
Absolutely.
Like these guys help us too as well. And it's a joy over the last, I don't know, 3 years where we've been, receiving sponsors that think like us.
Yep.
And that are doing things in the church. To be able to promote them and talk about them is another gift, and it's opened up new relationships for us.
And we need each other to push
We all
culture
do.
forward. We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've loved the dinners that we've had with them,
Yep.
and the conversations that we've had
We
on
went
the
to
show.
Carback with
Yeah,
the
that
dudes
was
from
a
Exodus
great
90.
time.
That was a
Exodus
great
90.
time.
Yeah, that was fun. We were able to meet the guys from HALLOW. We met them over in Indianapolis at
the NC
Focus
VB,
conference,
something like that.
And then we had them on the show, but it'd be great to hang out with those guys in person again. But we've had a lot of great sponsors. I mean, we've had people who have helped the show that we've been able to help in return.
I'm thankful for my alma mater, Ave Maria, supporting us for a while.
Yep. Catholic, Ave Rosary.
Yep.
Remember that guy's book? We did a show on his book. He wanted a sponsor. And I'm like, no, man, let's just get you on and talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
That was before we started taking sponsors. And
That
he
was,
sold out all of his books. And like,
Slaying Dragons.
And I went to IPF with that guy in 2008, and so that reunited. I'm like, oh my gosh, like
another
Lord's
good
doing-
lunch.
Yeah, that was
Adriana
a great
Cafe.
lunch. Yeah.
But he tells us that helped launch his ministry, and he's been able to leave his job. That was his first kind of foray into Catholic media. He's a great guy. We still keep up with him, and he's been able to now leave his job and focus on his ministry, and it kind of started
And
from there.
it's all our community of our listeners that respond to this, that are looking for ways to increase their faith, and hopefully the trust that they have that we will be able to share some things with them that they can, pick up and use.
Yeah, I remember when we went out to lunch with him. We're like, we recorded the episode, which is one of our highest watched episodes ever. But then we're like, let's go out to lunch. And we get in the car and we get down there, sitting down at the restaurant. We went to that Italian place.
Yeah.
And we're eating, and we're like, table for 4, and we're looking around, we're just eating. We're like, oh, we forgot Howard. We totally ditched
Poor
Howard.
Howard. Howard, you need to be visible on this episode. Hop on here real quick. Poor Howard, we have left so many times here. And I mean, it was how many times have we left you? in the
I just
studio.
remember the once. I mean, if there's anything else, it's probably just shell shock.
You probably didn't even realize that we left you the times that we've left you.
Like for lunch. Do you remember how many times like, hey, let's go get some lunch, and then we'd hop in the truck.
Howard's downloading or uploading.
Yeah, he's on
or
the
whatever.
computer, and we just take off. And then Sheil would be accusing us, like, you guys are terrible. But like Sheil would be in the truck with us.
Yeah, but at least I remembered. Like, you know, I remember that I left the windows up with the dog in the car. You guys don't. Right? I'll remember to go roll him down. You know, the guy might be hot and dehydrated, but you'd kill the dog. Right?
Right.
In this scenario, Howard, you're the dog. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, that did not go well.
But, you know, I think it's really worth saying how much Howard has contributed to this show.
Yeah.
Howard helped design the set. Howard helped design our logo.
He cut his teeth on a lot of things too, which I'm proud of.
He
you know?
helped with our intro scene. He really helped with a lot of the visual aspects of this. I mean, we could have done it without Howard, but I wouldn't have wanted to.
Yeah.
And I just have to say that when you guys were in LA, can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I'll hold it for you.
yeah. So you're coming back from LA, and I'm sitting in the office working, doing whatever I'm doing, and Ryan's talking to me about the show, and he says, we want to come down here in Houston. I thought we're going to build a studio. I said, okay. And he says, so you're going to build a studio for us? I said, yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I know a bit about photography, but to set up a podcast studio.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of learning and a lot of getting down and dirty and learning all the techniques. And it's been a joy.
One of my favorite days in the studio is when you forgot to record on an episode. And we left, and it's just like, he's never gonna hear the end of this. Did you push the button? Did you push the button, Howard? It's a button. Little red light comes on.
Yeah.
That was an episode on St. Joseph. I remember that.
Yeah. So now that's what I do. I sit in the corner, I push buttons,
and red lights come on.
Yeah. And so that's all I do now. I'm superfluous.
Oh my god.
Yeah, go back in the corner.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, thank you, Howard, for everything.
Yeah, thank you,
Howard really has been instrumental.
And one of my favorite images of the Archangel Gabriel over my shoulder, with the headphones on, that's definitely some of my favorite things. And then he sculpted one too. Remember that
I think
sculpture
that's
that
still
he
at
did?
my house.
Yeah, we got to bring that to
it's
this.
really nice.
It's nice. Probably we didn't want to move it.
Yeah.
Hey, I remember you and Howard got a U-Haul and broke down the studio in Houston and drove it here.
Oh yeah.
That was fun. His wife called every 10 minutes.
To make sure you guys were safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a trip too. So what are some of the favorite episodes we've ever done? What are some of your favorite episodes, Rich?
Personal favorite. I loved Aliens in the Catholic Church.
Yeah. You always want to redo that one. You want to revisit
I do
that.
want to redo that one. I think that would be really interesting. I loved, I've loved all of the ones that we've done with Brandon. Both those have been really insightful. I've enjoyed those. Wells, the book on his
Priest.
uncle.
Yep.
That was very
Monsignor
impactful. What about you, Delacrosse?
I think the one that we did with Fulton Sheen was unique.
Yeah, that was really unique. I like that one.
But it spurred these conversations, and I felt like you could just cut the Holy Spirit with some scissors in here. It was just so thick that we were really talking about things that were going on in the world today in response to some of the things that he was saying, which were so true back then, and they're prophetic, and then they're true today. So that one was a very unique episode. I felt the conversation, any conversation around things he says is terrific. But then we'll do an episode on St. Joseph or Paul.
St. Francis. I remember you really liked the St.
Francis,
Francis
Paul,
one.
Peter. I just felt the presence of, I really did. I felt the presence of their souls here, and those are really good experiences for me. I look at those as sort of really renewing my own life, which I think a lot of people don't understand, is like this renews us. Like talking about our faith, sharing our faith, and going through the podcast really helps. I believe helps us out a lot too in our own journeys.
I really enjoyed the one that we did with Bishop Esteves too. Like that was just such a great kind of full circle. He sent me out. He was, he's coming to the end of his leadership in the diocese and kind of sharing his testimony of faith and his journey.
Yeah.
That was really the way that flowed and the feeling. And, when he walked into the rectory and Howard jumps up and he's like, "Hello, sir." And
that was a good episode. I mean, that was enjoyable to do.
Yeah.
It was fun to see a bishop and a priest together in a very loving way, communicating together with each other. I mean, that was pretty cool. He's just a really awesome man. A lot of great service to the church.
I really liked the episode that we did on the science of the crucifixion. I think that was a really powerful episode. I think that one really stands out to me. I really like the one that we did where we read the meanest things people said about us. That was fun. Super fun.
That was fun.
That one flowed into that was our rap. I think that was our rap video.
From the last time.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we finished the shoot and then we went off and we were singing going into he's a fat gay
liberal priest. He's a fat gay liberal priest.
Say what?
So in case you haven't watched it, Father Rich was accused of being a fat gay liberal priest. And then we made a song out of it.
Priest too.
A modernist. Yeah. So we made a whole song out of it. And now we sing it to him to irritate him.
It was funny.
Because he's a fat gay liberal priest. You're a fat gay liberal priest. Say what? Now, some of the ones that I really liked, I think made you guys scream a little bit. 15 things that need to stop happening in church and the worst Catholic church songs.
The worst Catholic church songs. I was excited about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But we got a little blowback on those.
Yes, we did.
But I got to be fully. I went full shield on those episodes.
Yes, you did.
You did.
You didn't hold anything
And that was
back.
back when, you didn't have this filter that you have today.
I've developed a filter. I think
It's not a
substantially
big one.
older.
Yeah, it's not a very big filter, but it's a
From
filter.
cocaine to Christ.
From crack to Jesus.
From crack to Christ. That one was great.
That was a really good
dude,
episode.
like when he was giving his testimony, all three of us were like,
Oh my gosh.
and one that I feel very proud about was Archbishop Corleone. What a blessing
That was cool.
to have him on and talk about the mass restrictions during COVID.
Yeah.
So now here's what I want to do. So actually, I'll do this real quick. So our most viewed videos, I'll get the top, couple. 15 things that need to stop happening in Mass. That's our number one most viewed video. Our second is that one that we did with Charles Ferrani that we were talking about, the 7 secrets the exorcist wants you to know. The third is our episode on holy water. The fourth is
the holy water ones.
Yeah, which you guys didn't want to do. The fourth most watched episode is the one that we did with Father Spitzer on near-death experiences.
Oh, that was
great
one of my
episode.
favorite ones.
That was a great episode.
Yes.
And then our fifth most watched episode was 5 things you didn't know about the Rosary. And then the next ones are Catholic miracles, things you didn't know about the crucifix, guardian angels. So those are our most viewed pieces of content. But I want to talk about the ones that have no views, that people did not like, that we just absolutely whiffed on.
Big whiffer.
These are the ones that we thought, hey, this is a great topic, and it just
Everybody's
was.
like,
no, we're not
Every
interested.
single one of these videos were a
My
brainchild of Ryan Shield.
Yes. Hey, look, man, I miss on things too.
Big
So,
whiffer.
what food was at the Last Supper? Nobody watched that.
How many people?
What food was at the Last
3,000,
Supper?
Yeah, no one was interested in that. Hold on, let me get back.
Boring.
The first annual Catholic draft. No one watched
But
that.
that was
It was fun.
That was a
but-
lot of fun just for us.
That was
Like,
a stupid concept, though.
but it was fun.
I liked it.
It was fun. We did that in Houston.
That's right. Let's see. The episode on the Popemobile. I want to redo that one. Nobody
Nobody
watched
watched it then. Nobody's
They're
gonna watch it later.
now. They're gonna now.
Get over it.
The history of Catholicism in sports. That one no one watched. And that was a great
love that.
episode.
Yeah, I
we
love
should
doing
redo
that.
that with a better title and talk about that again, because there was some cool stuff about about the Kobe Bryant and
Mary.
the creation of the Hail Mary and Notre Dame
That was back when
football.
Kobe was
Babe
alive,
Ruth.
I think, too. Because
We
he was coming into the studio.
Yeah. We should redo an episode on that. What are some of the other ones that people did not like? They did not like our show on New Year's, where we talked about the creation of New Year's and stuff like that.
The Gregorian calendar.
That's right.
Well, the fact that we release a show every single week and haven't missed a week, like that's pretty special.
It's kind of tough to always come up with new content. But those are the ones that people did not like. They didn't like our Christmas special either, but that one is one of my favorite we ever did in LA.
Yes.
That was
where
when
you're
I
dancing
was like,
around like
Yes.
that. Oh,
That was a
man.
lot of fun.
That was hilarious.
And I love the video that Howard did when he was Santa Claus. That was up there for me too as a favorite. The 7 worst popes ever was also
that was one of
enjoyable.
my favorite episodes. Those Theophylacti, dude.
We also want to hear what you think. Maybe there's a video that you love that we haven't even mentioned. We've mentioned a bunch of them. But which ones stand out to you guys?
Yeah, which ones were your favorite and which ones were your least favorite?
Yeah.
Love to hear that. So 200 episode, guys. You think we got another 200 in us?
God willing, yeah. I think it's
Can you imagine how terrible we're going to look in another 4 years?
Oh man, I've already looked like a catcher's mitt. I don't know. I look like a beanbag.
I mean, it's like you don't look like you will definitely not be a Schmitz by then.
But you know, you look at the fruits of our labor and what we're doing, and when you get comments and messages and people that are, you know, learning more about the faith and entering in the RCIA and becoming Catholic, and you've played a part in that, is just, you know, it's so humbling. It's really touching.
I mean, that is the fruit of what we've done. I can confidently say we've had at least 100 people tell us, you have helped me come back into the church. You've helped me get baptized. You've helped me rediscover my faith. And that's the most important thing that we do. Now, I love hanging out with you guys, but we could do that. We just go play golf and, you know, hang out or whatever. But the fact that when we are spending time together, that we're actually making an impact is really meaningful.
And it presses our dialogue.
Makes 200 episodes worth it.
Yeah, and it presses our dialogue, and we get better in our communion and fellowship. And, you know, we have had tense moments. We've had fights. We've had things.
Our biggest fight was over Medjugorje.
No, I think there was one where we were trying to communicate with you, and you were in the bullheaded mode, and like Delacroix said something to you, I said something to you, and then you just flipped out and you were like, "Stop ganging up on me, bro! Stop ganging!" And then
we're looking at each other like we're not
ganging up on you, man. Like, we're just
you guys are ganging up on me now. Shut up! Knock you two together like coconuts. Yeah, we've had some good fights.
We've had some good fights.
It's usually me and you. Me and him don't fight as much.
Yeah, it's normally me and you. There's occasions where he gets fired up, but yeah, not many times.
Just because we're passionate.
That's what it's about. But you know, like the fact that we've opened up our hearts to one another and our minds to one another and have dialogued so much, it has formed a beautiful friendship, and it's something that I look forward to quarterly. You know, just be able to get together and talk about some of these important issues and share the history and learn something new and put into practice what our faith entails. And that's something that you always hit out of the park. Is just like, you know, it's a practice. You know, none of us get this right, and
we're talking about practice.
We're talking about praxis.
Don't cry.
That's right. Don't cry.
Now, you know, I would love to hear some of the reach, because I remember the very first syndication that we had, which was just such like a prophetic sign for me that this is good, was our syndication in Lebanon, which was crazy. Mm-hmm. And then we were approached syndicated in Belize.
Those
Those were the first two, I think,
that's right? And then we've also been lucky to work with Catholic TV out of Boston and Bishop Reed there.
The fact that Bishop, and this was in the first year, and Bishop Reed liked our content and reached out to us personally, and we had a conversation with him. That was unbelievable. To have in my inbox an email from him, exploring that. I'm like, no way.
We
How
don't
is
do a
this
good
real?
enough. We don't do a good enough job of letting people know that they can see us on Catholic TV. I believe I don't even know what day we're playing. I think it's Tuesday or Wednesdays. Changes depending on the season, but we've been on Catholic TV now for 2 years.
Yeah, so a shout out to all of those homes in Catholic TV land.
Yeah, because a lot of people have said they watch us from there, like in hospitals, and they're in the hospital and they get that there, and it's a comfort to them. So
The sister from the Vatican that reached out to us, we knew that it was downloaded in the Vatican.
That's right.
Because for a while it was like we were downloading all these countries, and it's like we haven't been downloaded in the Vatican. That's terrible.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a country I could think of where we haven't had a viewer from. We've had viewers from just dozens of nations. We have,
and this is just exclusively YouTube. We're on all these different podcast platforms.
Altogether, we've had tens of millions of views, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions plus podcast downloads. We've done a good job getting out there, and I think we've made a nice difference with our time. Instead of just spending it doing nothing, we've done quite a bit of reach out there.
And I remember, like, on iTunes, something that Cass was telling us we needed to get to was like a certain 100, like, was it 300 or
1,000
reviews.
ratings?
1,000 reviews, and now we're over 1,000 ratings, and we're still we're at 4.9 stars out of 5, which is just huge.
One of the I think we'd probably almost be a perfect 5.0, but we did an episode on what Jesus did after the resurrection. And we talked, you guys, we were in the car before going into the studio that day. And do you remember this?
Was this the time we were listening to Dolly Parton in the car?
Yeah, so like we were gonna do the episode on what Jesus did after the resurrection, and you were telling us about how Dolly Parton did this song about
It's awesome,
right?
He's alive,
right? So we were talking really, just hey, she did this really great gospel song. So we do this episode, and we're talking about it, and we're like. And you guys are like, yeah, man, I got those Dolly Parton chills. And this lady construed it that we were looking at Dolly Parton as a sexual gratification object. And she's like, how dare you sit there and try to talk about Dolly Parton? And this is so unbecoming of Catholic men to be lusting after Dolly Parton. We're like, dude, we're not chilling. We don't have chills.
That was the comments?
That was the comment. We got a 1-star review on that.
Oh, really?
So that's really hurt our rankings. So I wanted to address that. If you happen to listen, and you probably aren't because you were dead to you after the whole Dolly Parton debacle. We were talking about her song about Mary seeing Jesus resurrected, not
which is a beautiful
not about
song.
her physical attributes.
He's alive. He's alive. Great song.
Yeah.
You'll cry.
So that's why we don't have a 5-star rating. We have 4.9 because of that. And that's always bothered me because it's unjust. I'm like, nah, man, we were being gross.
But no, we're on all these different forums, and it's so hard to even get a real number of the impact because it's being hosted and shadowed like on all these different forums that we don't manage. Like they just grab the content and put us on there. Like there was.
We don't manage?
Well, no, I'm not saying that we don't manage, but I'm just saying.
You don't manage.
Well, I don't manage, no. But the fact that people can take our content and host it.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's like on Podbean and all this crazy things.
Which we don't have. We don't have access to that.
Yeah.
We don't put that up there. And even there was a Tetlow flew somewhere, got in a car, turned on the radio, and we were being featured on some radio station. So it's like cool. It's happening all over the place, and it's hard to track down.
I mean, and then the stories of people that have found our show and the impact that it's had on them, and the grace that God is. I mean, I've had dinner with a couple, and for 2.5 hours we just talked, and they were telling the story. So we don't know about all this impact. I mean, we had that other couple that watched their first episode on their first date. And then they were married, 2 years later.
And they sent us invitations.
They sent us invitations
to come to the wedding.
We're an aphrodisiac.
It's crazy.
What a cool. God help us. God help you.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it's been a lot of fun. 200 episodes. Our first episode was September 25th, 2018. And this one, we're looking at almost 4 years later.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's been a pretty nice run.
Yeah.
another 200 we'll see. We have some goals. We want to make sure that we continue to grow. So the best way that you can help us is by liking and sharing and making sure you're subscribing to us on all the platforms. We're on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We try to mess around on TikTok, but we're too old for that now. 4 years ago, we might have got it, but we're on there if you want to subscribe to us. Make sure you're subscribing to us on your favorite podcast player, whether it's Google or Apple or Spotify. We're on all of those. And continue to support us. Go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Patreon, and you can continue to help grow with us. We can't do this without your support. I want to make sure that we give a good shout out to the sponsors who've been with us for so long and who we've worked with, our partners at Exodus 90. If you go to Exodus90.com/Catholic Talk Show, you can download the app for free and try it. And if you go to HALLOW.com/Catholic Talk Show, you can get the app there. So, it's taken everyone. It's taken guys like Howard, who's been so instrumental. It's taken people who have supported us through Patreon.
A big shout out to Kyle too, and his wife, and they do all of our editing.
Yeah. Our partners in Hollow and Exodus 90. All the people who have supported us. Your parish has been so grateful.
Yeah.
So gracious to us, and that's what I think my favorite part of being down here is getting to meet your parishioners. I mean, they've been really receptive. So. It's been great, guys, and ad multos annos.
Amen. To 250, maybe we could do a YouTube studio for the 250th.
Yeah, that puts us somewhere around early spring next year. Let's try to do it.
I think that we might be able to do that. So thanks for connecting with us. Again, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, giving us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next week.